It was February 10th, the day after my youngest son's birthday. I remember the sky that morning, deep, heavy, overcast. Not quite snowing yet, but promising it. There was a strange stillness in the air, like something was off. Not in the physical sense, but something else. Something energetic. The day carried weight. It felt darker than it should have. I wouldn't have described it that way at the time, but looking back, it was the first sign that something was shifting. We had a local hockey game that morning before heading out to a playoff game later that evening. I sat alone in that morning arena, surrounded by people, yet feeling completely separate, like I was just observing the world, watching it unfold while something inside me quietly unraveled, or maybe unlocked. I'd been feeling this slow build for a few weeks since I watched that video, the millennial question. That was, again, the spark. And ever since, something had started rising in me, a sense of connectedness, of clarity. I didn't know where it was leading, but I trusted it. My inner compass kept saying, don't go backward, keep moving forward. As the day went on, that feeling deepened. We stopped to get skate sharpened before the game, and I remember standing outside the building while others went in. I couldn't go in. Something in me said no. One of the other dads came over and casually said, "How are you doing today?" And I said, "Not bad, and you?" He said, "Well, you know how it is after a Friday night." And it hit me, strangely. I didn't laugh. I didn't relate. I just noticed. Something was different. I was different. Later, driving to the game, I didn't realize how slowly I was going until someone pointed it out. I felt overly protective of myself, of the moment, of my family. I wasn't anxious, just aware, like my senses were heightened, like I was being moved by something unseen. During the game, there was a darkness in the air. Between the teams, between the parents, I can't explain it. It wasn't your usual hockey tension. It was something more energetic, more primal, and I felt myself separating from it. I was still having conversations, still doing the normal things, but it felt like I was standing on a different frequency. There were flashes of synchronicity too. A group of kids outside started talking about Albert Einstein and the theory of relativity. It was so unexpected, so specific. I asked where they heard about it. "School," they said. It felt like the universe was nodding at me. 10 minutes into that drive, I heard something that sounded like water running. I asked somebody in the car if they could hear what I was hearing, and they said yes. I wasn't losing it. I was just tuned in, hyper tuned in. The senses and the spirit aligned. Later that evening, we met up with a friend for a little birthday celebration for my youngest son. I did something strange that night. I ordered a salad and a glass of milk. Everyone looked at me like, "What?" But I didn't care. I was like I was making decisions from some newer version of myself. I remember observing the whole restaurant, people laughing, talking, obvious. And I felt so present, so awake, like I was witnessing the energy of life unfolding around me while standing just slightly outside of it, not disconnected, clear. There was a moment at the table. That friend reached over and grabbed fries off my son's plate. For years, I had surface level tension with this person, but I never said anything. This time I asked, "Why are you taking fries off his plate?" And they replied, "Don't worry about it. Me and your son are good." It wasn't about the fries. It was about seeing things and stepping into a more honest version of myself, no matter how difficult it was in the moment. After dinner, I it had started to snow, thick, heavy flakes. We ended up behind a snowplow on the drive out, and when that one turned, another one appeared. It felt symbolic, like I was being escorted, like something beyond me was guiding the route. We stopped by my in-laws' place before heading home. I wanted to say something to my mother-in-law. I needed to say it, and I wasn't sure that she would understand. But at the same time, I wanted to say it anyways. I walked over and said, "You won't understand this, but everything's going to be good after tonight." I remembered that moment clearly. I knew it wasn't just a hopeful comment. It was a knowing after tonight I would not be the same. Back at home, just before my friend arrived, my youngest son pulled me into his bedroom. He had this serious look on his face. "Okay, now go sit on the bed," he said, shutting the door behind us. I started to ask what he was doing, but he cut me off. "Don't worry, Dad. I'm just trying to get the frequency right." He was playing with the karaoke boombox we've gotten him for his birthday. I can't even remember if a song was playing, but the room felt strange, like I was being hypnotized, like the air itself had changed. He came over and looked at me, very calm. "Can you hold me like a baby, Daddy?" He climbed onto my lap, and I held him, rocking him gently. Then, without prompting, he looked up and said, "My favorite number used to be 9, but now it's 7. And just like that, I wasn't sure I was talking to my son anymore. I felt like it was someone else. My brain went straight to my uncle, my deceased uncle, who had been murdered as a boy. He had the same name as my son. I don't know why, but I felt it, as if he was speaking through my son. There was a strange comfort in it, almost like it was going to be okay. Then he said, "Okay, the door is about to open." And seconds later, it did. His brother walked in, and it was like the spell was broken, whatever that was. A fast-paced song came on from the boombox at that moment. The beat was catchy, but the lyrics were off, dark even. It didn't sit right. Later we settled into the living room to watch a movie, Cars 3, I believe. The kids and I curled up on the couch. Everything felt peaceful, grounded. I felt happy and calm. Then headlights came down the driveway. My best friend had arrived. Right on time, 8:30. His fiancée stayed inside while I joined him in the garage. It was snowing, quiet. The air had a little bit of a bite to it. He looked at me. "So what's going on?" And I told him everything. "I'm not drinking anymore. I'm changing things. I need to be present for my kids, for myself." We talked about fishing, fatherhood, the past. Then I said something that surprised both of us. "The cold is coming." He paused. "What do you mean?" "I don't know." I said, "It just is." He looked at me with concern, but also understanding. I cried a little in the conversation, told him I loved him, that I appreciated him for being a constant in my life. Well, he said, "Hey man, you say I'm your lily pad, but underneath that lily pad chop there's a rock. And that meant something. That landed somewhere in me. But then he asked, have you told our other friend about this? And I knew who he was talking about. Somebody that guy got along with well. But he didn't necessarily. I said no. Why? I just don't trust him. The air shifted. Something dark started to creep in. I couldn't explain it. It was just a feeling. Something ancient maybe, and heavy passing through. In that moment, the door between the garage and the house opened. Time to tuck me in, Daddy, my youngest son said. It's bedtime. So I said, excuse me, I gotta take care of this and I'll be right back out. My best friend says, no problem. And as I got inside, my son asked me for a horsey ride. So I got down on all fours and carried him through the hallway, getting up on my 2 feet and having him on my shoulders. I'm controlling you now, he giggled. Turn left, turn right. Now spin. We spun in the living room. He laughed. But something inside me was turning, shifting. At some point, I was spinning so fast, it was all a blur. And then I was standing in the kitchen, I think. Everything still blurry. Then I heard my friend's voice echo. It always starts and ends in the kitchen. Chop. I looked around and everybody else was fuzzy, almost frozen like silhouettes, like I was watching them from a tunnel. And then I felt it. Something was behind me. A presence. It was cold. Ancient. It felt wrong. The kind of feeling you get in a movie when you know something's standing behind the door and you beg the character not to open it. Panic rose in my throat. I wanted to scream, to yell to my friend, to have him save me, to protect my kids. But I couldn't get it out. I was being pulled back, out of myself. It felt like doom was impending, like falling into a hole, and everyone else was drifting further and further away. And then it was nothing. Black. The next thing I remember was somewhere else. A voice asked, "Do you know what day it is?" I looked around from wherever I was and saw a whiteboard. February 12th, I said. I heard some background laughter, and then the person standing in front of me said, "How do you know that?" "Well, it's written right there." Again, I heard laughter, which made me look in the direction, and I saw uniforms. I didn't know if they were police, security, or something else entirely, like guardians maybe. I still don't know. But what I did know, deep down, was that I'd gone somewhere. Somewhere I can't explain. Somewhere I was never meant to return from. And now, somehow, I had. Now that I was back, everything had changed. That night wasn't just a conversation. It was some sort of portal. It was the end of who I'd been, and the moment I began to remember who I really was. And I knew with full certainty whatever was going on at that moment of uncertainty, I knew I was never going back.